On June 29, 1867, 2nd Lieutenant Lyman Kidder was killed by an Indian war party. The Kidder Massacre also took the lives of 10 enlisted men, as well as an Indian scout. A lot of people have never heard of this important event in history, and almost no one knows where it happened. But to me and my family, we are reminded of it on our daily travels. I grew up on a farm 17 miles north of Brewster. Our farm is known as the Middle of Nowhere Farm, but just down the road is a very historic site. A pasture among cows is a tin statue of a man on a horse fighting an Indian. Although small in stature, it represents a big piece of history. This is the site of the Kidder Massacre. The Kidder Massacre took place in the summer of 1867, a time period that was stained by the blood of the Indian Wars. Lieutenant Kidder and his men were delivering dispatch orders to Lieutenant Custer, who was supposed to be stationed in Nebraska. But when they reached the camp, it was empty. Under the belief that Lieutenant Custer must have moved to Fort Wallace, Lieutenant Kidder began the journey south. Unfortunately, he would never make it, since Lieutenant Kidder, the 10 enlisted men, and a single Indian scout would be ambushed and massacred on June 29, 1867. When Lieutenant Kidder and his troops did not arrive, General Custer began a search party. Along a trail in northwestern Kansas, troops found a dead Army horse. Troops found more evidence of a battle along Beaver Creek. Although the creek bed is dry now, it still outlines the path Custer's men followed to find the site of the massacre. July 12, 1867, Lieutenant Custer's troops located the remains at the Kidder Massacre site. Lieutenant Custer was quoted saying, "Each body was pierced by 20 to 50 arrows, and the arrows were found as the savage demons had left them, bristling in the bodies." It was concluded by the Army that Pawnee killers led the Cheyenne and Sioux Indians in the ambush. The scene was so gruesome that Lieutenant Kidder could only be identified by the shirt he was wearing. His body was then transferred to his family to be buried in St. Paul, Minnesota. The rest of the bodies were originally buried in Fort Wallace, but then moved to Fort Leavenworth in the late 1800s. Fork in the road by the site is now marked by a sign so that travelers can learn about the Kidder Massacre and understand the historical importance of this land.